pressure.
No pressure.
Hi, everyone. Hi in the back. Hi, Oakland. Glad you guys are here. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Like many of you, I've just grown to love this group. PWRG is so near and dear to my heart and has made such a big difference in my life. So I was completely honored to be asked to do the inspirational speech today. And many of the women in my group know that I used to do CrossFit, and it's pretty interesting. CrossFits can be pretty interesting. So they asked me to do an inspirational speech about CrossFit. And as I was going through the process of writing down and going over my experience in CrossFit, which was years ago, something else kind of started to bubble up to the surface about me. And that's what I'll share today. So, like many of you, I'm a woman. Sorry, I was crying a little bit when she was talking.
It's okay, it's okay.
Okay.
We're with you.
I know you are. So, like many of you, I am a woman of many talents and titles. And to my kids, Brooke and Drew, I'm mom. And to my awesome husband, Eric, I'm a wife. And to the associates in my branch, I'm the boss. And to my boss, I'm the employee. So I'm a daughter, a sister, a volunteer, and a friend. And each one of these jobs carries its own unique set of responsibilities, all of which Carrie is responsible for. Often leaving very little time for Carrie to just be Carrie. And I am sure you guys can all relate.
Absolutely.
If I'm not very intentional about flipping off the switch at night, the next thing I know, my head is spinning, and we've all been laying there in the middle of the night. Your brain won't shut off about all of the responsibilities you have and all the things you have to get done. So in addition to all of the above, I'm thinking about how am I going to get a workout in. I've got to work on professional growth, personal growth, and I've got to keep up to date on all these topics so that I can have something in my back pocket in case I meet somebody. And by the way, I'm not good at small talk. And so it's very difficult for me sometimes to make an instant connection with people. So for those of you who have only chatted with me once or twice, it gets better. In fact, most of my closest friends, they all love telling the story of how they did not like me when they first met me. And even my husband, who is a social butterfly, and if anybody meets him, you will instantly love him. I've seen him take people aside and tell them, like paving the way for me, like, don't worry, you're gonna love her. True story. And it never bothered me a bit that I wasn't making connections with people. And I didn't understand the value, really, of getting to know people, making the effort to learn about other people. I was always very self-contained. And so forming relationships was never a priority for me. I always thought it was kind of cute that later people would tell me, wow, it took me a while to get you. And it never bothered me that I didn't have very many friends in school. I had a few, and that was enough. And I was kind of insecure, so it was hard for me to be vulnerable with people, which is the way that you get to know people. So I wasn't raised, a little bit about my childhood, I wasn't raised with my dad. My parents were never married, and my mom had no support and very little, actually 0 role models in her life. In fact, she left home at 14. But she loved me a ton and always made sure I had clothes to wear, food, and a roof over my head. And I had pretty good stepdad, plural, stepdads. But much of my childhood was turmoil and uncertainty. And so I'm not complaining at all. I was very lucky to have been loved and still be loved by my mom. And she's gone through a lot of adversity to make life better for her kids. However, my circumstances in childhood most likely made it difficult for me to be vulnerable. And even though I wasn't outgoing, I did meet my husband in high school, like Leah said. And he is very popular and had and still has a lot of friends. And like I said, I didn't really have very many of my own friends, so his friends became my friends. And his friends' girlfriends became my friends. And his mom, who is now my mother-in-law, is the most fantastic woman you could ever meet. She was a stay-at-home mom, and the house always looked amazing. And she cooked, she cleaned, she made fantastic dinners every night. She was all things domestic. And now looking back, I could see how much I was craving that life. I'd go and visit him and never want to leave. So about 8 years later, we were married. Luckily, the family liked me. And then after Eric and I had been living on our own for a few months, I told him, I said, well, so we're getting married, right? And he's like, well, all right. And that's how easygoing he is. He never proposed. He's way too cool for that. Honest to God, true story. And so he started picking out his groomsmen for the wedding. And I said, well, we had a wedding at a campsite where we used to camp when we were teenagers. And he had 9 groomsmen. And I'm like, I don't have that many friends. What am I going to do? Like, I have a sister, I have a stepsister, I have some coworkers. So basically my wedding was, my girls were walking with 2 men down the aisle. and then also kids were my idea, but luckily he went along with that too. So after the kids were born, we both gained weight and we kind of just settled into this routine that parents settle into. You have 2 small kids, I'm working, I'm commuting, I'd come home and then I'd be tired from commuting and I'd basically eat and go to sleep. And that was our lives. We still had a very packed social life because my husband has lots. He has the same set of friends since elementary school. And they still talk every day. They do. And I think I mentioned I was tired all the time. So my husband decided he was going to go on the Atkins diet, which basically means for men, went to light beer and skipped bread and lost all the weight he needed to lose. It was instant. Right? So I started working out in the garage and I got a heavy bag and I was punching the heavy bag and I wanted to work up to doing legit push-ups, like the man push-ups, not on your knees. And so I set small goals for myself, and I will never forget the day. I remember what the weather was like outside. I did 20 push-ups in a row on my own. And I didn't want to tell anybody, but I kind of walked around like but when it would come up and I'd sneak it into conversations and try to But more importantly, I was in a better mood. I got the endorphins. I started cooking. I found I had a love for cooking, and I still do. And so, and then this epiphany hit me one day, like, of course what I'm eating is having an impact on the way how did I not put that together before? But no more boxed meals, no more fast food, and I was feeling a lot better. And about that same time, my boss was going through his own weight loss journey, and he was really excited about this boot camp thing he was doing, and he said it was called CrossFit and said I should try it. And there was a gym in Walnut Creek on the way home, so I thought I'd stop by. And at the time, this was 2008, CrossFit was relatively new, and there weren't a lot of gyms. No one had heard of it. I hadn't heard of it. I didn't know what to expect. And the gym was very different. It was an industrial garage next to a muffler shop, and there were no machines, no mirrors, no TV monitors.